Welcome to the Ultimate Men's Movement podcast. This is your host, Jack Rocco. I'm here today with Cheyenne MDee. How are you, Cheyenne?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great. Now, we spoke earlier in the week and we had a great conversation. Let's start off. Let me have you introduce yourself and your program and some of the things that you're doing online and with your own personal business.
Okay, so I am Cheyenne and I'm a Southern gal. So I work in relationships primarily. I got my background from really more of a backdoor type of way. So my history is that of domestic violence. So I was raised in it, as was my mother before me and her mother before her. And this is a cyclical thing. So for me, I had to start the journey of how to break that cycle for my children. I became an advocate for domestic violence, speaking on stages all across the United States with different organizations, etc. And we started our nonprofit, Freedom the Caliber Way, to help those who are victims and survivors to be able to leave their current situation and heal properly so that they would not go back and become the repeat offenders like I was. That was the start of
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we certainly don't like to discuss oftentimes in open public, but it's something that we all have some experience with, either personally or from friends. Now, your situation, you said that this was a repeated occurrence within your family, and you said this is a common thing that it seems to run in families, so to speak.
domestic violence is cyclical by nature.
Mhm.
We as human beings inherently do what we know. It's not about doing what we want. We always go back to what we know. And so that is where you end up seeing a lot of breakdowns in relationships. Fast forward from where I was working with just the women, and I realized very quickly that not all of the abusers were bad people,
Mhm.
that a great majority of them were individuals in relationships where there was a breakdown, a disconnect within that relationship. And they were becoming more and more frustrated and they weren't feeling seen and heard or anything like that. And they would have a moment lapse and they would become volatile at that moment, just like an outburst. And
Mhm.
then these are the same individuals, these men who were like, I can't believe I did that. So what we ended up doing is then turning around and trying to tackle this issue from both ends, not just picking up people that were affected by this and trying to help them from going back and breaking that cycle, but also trying to head it off before it ever reached that point. That's why I got into working with individuals and working with men specifically on how to reconnect and how to reignite that fire within their relationship. And also,
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of these things where, I think men probably seem to be what word would it be? The perpetrators of the abuse, but it's not always that way, correct? It,
no, I've worked with victims who are both male and female, and abusers can be both male and female. But primarily, what we do see is that the fairer sex are typically, and it's not just typically, statistically speaking, the higher number of women. Either way, it doesn't matter the gender of which one. What matters is that there is a breakdown, there is a disconnect within the relationship, and it's butting heads. It's not being able to communicate. It's speaking two different languages, even though you're speaking one language, whether it's English, Spanish, what have you, but you can't seem to reach each other. And so you don't feel heard. The other person doesn't feel seen. You've got all this back and forth of, oh my gosh, why does he hate me? Or why does she hate me? Why do they not want me? And everybody wants to be desired. Everyone
yeah.
does. So
When we spoke earlier in the week, that's what I really appreciated about your style is that it wasn't necessarily a finger pointing, blaming. It was just men and women respond differently to episodes of disagreement, episodes of argument. Do you find that alcohol or substances are frequently involved or not necessarily?
not necessarily.
Yeah.
The disconnect happens long before. Now, when you do have addictions in place, addiction happens prior to, because that's a whole nother ball of wax altogether. But in general, you find the majority of relationships, the majority, for long-term relationships, you start to have a breakdown. People get comfortable, but they also stop really putting their best foot forward, and they stop trying to see and hear the other one. When that starts happening, I hate to call it laziness, but there's not a better word for it. And then we get comfortable in these patterns. The other ugly thing that happens is that we're not taught how to do this. In fact, we're actually on the heels of a toxic masculinity, and I use air quotes because that's a misnomer, but also this women's lib movement that has put to where we don't need men, when in fact, it's not that we are one and the same and we don't need. We're equal, we're just not the same.
Yeah, that's what I really appreciate that, as because it seems I was speaking on another podcast earlier today, Rick Yee, he's got the Warrior Mindset, a podcast, and he talks about that, like that a lot of youth, young men are growing up with this sense of you are bad, that boys are being taught and told that they're bad, we don't need you, you're toxic, you're narcissistic, you can't turn your back or look left or right without hearing something like that lately. And it does seem that feminism has evolved or moved on or changed in its message. It seems to be so much more loud at these points where men are frequently feel alienated, I feel.
I wouldn't say that it has evolved or become loud. What I would say is what was a positive movement has taken a detour, where it's no longer about empowering women. It's about putting down men. And so I think that is where you see, and it's not all of the feminine movement. That's not the entire thing. You just have one group. It's like you always hear, it just takes one bad apple to ruin it for everybody else. So it's the same concept here. You've got one group that's ruined it for the rest. I've actually spoken with lesbian couples and lesbians who are older lesbians who paved the way for the lesbian community, for the gay community. And they are so frustrated because this movement has actually taken away from what they worked so hard to create for this equality. And it's being squashed because they've taken something and warped it into something totally different. It's like there was an online craze for a while about the bear and the man. Sure, you probably saw that.
Right.
And most women were picking the bear to fight the bear. And there were two sides of the coin on this. On one side, it depicted that we still do have a lot of issues that are the dynamic that's whether it's not equal or where you've got someone holding you under their thumb, because we do still have domestic violence and it's very rampant. But on the flip side, we have that whole thing happening where being masculine in general has become, if you're masculine, then you're abusive. And that's not equal. What people don't realize when they're saying this stuff is every woman, I don't care what her choice is, whether she's attracted to men, women, or what have you, if she is more of a masculine woman or if she's more of a feminine woman, every woman wants to be with someone who can create and provide a safe space where she can fall back into her divine feminine, because that's what we are naturally. It's much more energy to be in your masculine state. We all want it. We all want that.
Yeah, I work with women. I've worked with women for years. And that's the thing that I hear a lot, is that these women, that having to work now is not an option anymore. The women who wanted to work should have the opportunity to work, but so many are forced into it now, and they still have their female roles, their wifely roles at home. But now on top of it, they're doubly stressed with it. And I've heard a lot of women say, "Oh, gee, thanks for giving us all this extra work, that it's become mandatory, that for a woman to want to stay at home and be a housewife or a mother is almost looked down upon by in some circles. Do you agree with that, or do you run
I
across that?
I do agree. So the term right now that's popular is trad wife. And I really hate that term because it's referring to the traditional roles that females play within a relationship, a marital relationship within a household. And what is so frustrating about this term is that they've equated it with this movement of men that is very patriarchal and is very, you must obey. It's taking scripture to the extreme. And there are various religious groups that do that. There's also like incel. I'm sure you're familiar with the incel group. These extremist groups who have come about, and that's what they want. They want a woman under a thumb. But that's such a small group. Again, it's not the vast majority. So what is being depicted for this one small group, a small percentage of individuals, has now become, oh, that's what a trad wife is. So any woman who wants to I say let, that's not accurate, but to be able to step back and receive and to be able to feel her role, her natural role, and to be equal, but not the same, and to be able to rise together with her partner. If you want to take on that role, and if you want to stay home, if you want to raise children, if you want to be that wife, that mom, then shame on you. You're less of a woman. And for the men on the opposite side, a lot of these men don't look at what she does as being equal because there's not a paycheck attached to it.
I hear from a lot of men as well that men, and myself included, that we are responsible for the patriarchy, as if there's like this group of men every week who have a meeting. What's going to happen next week? I find many men, they get up at 6 a.m, they work all day, they're linemen, digging electric lines, they're driving the snow trucks, the snow trucks, they're digging the oil, they're in they're very high risk, high demand, physically difficult positions. And you said when you talked about the woman would rather run into a bear. And I had this discussion with a friend, and it's like, you would rather run into a bear because you've never seen a bear, because there are no bears in your neighborhood, because most people's neighborhoods are tamed. And if there is a bear that comes into the neighborhood, you immediately hear about it on the news, and someone is either capturing or chasing away the bear, often men. But there's no thanks or no gratitude for those guys who are up every day doing all the physical labor work that keeps our roads open, that keeps our fuel running, our water, our sewers, our plumbing. Those are mostly male dominated positions. And it seems that this patriarchy has also put the blame onto men for a lot of the domestic violence. But you're saying that men and women just react differently during arguments. Is that your point?
No, that wasn't my point. That's not my point at all.
Oh.
No, and I'm not talking about whether or not you react differently. If you think about it, maybe you have not dealt with domestic violence. Maybe you have not.
I have not. I can't say that. Yeah,
So,
I've not experienced it in my family personally, but you hear the stories.
you hear stories, yeah.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I know when we spoke earlier and you were talking about, well, for men, it's taboo to report. For women, it's taboo to report as well. So across the board, most cases are not reported. So the numbers are actually staggeringly higher on both sides of the fence, because here's the breakdown on it. People don't believe you. People don't listen, and people don't take action. What they do, what happens over and over, and this has even happened in my personal experience, when I had one of the deacons of my church say she must have done something.
Yeah.
So this is a very, for a lack of a better way to put it, it happens more times than not.
Yeah.
It happens. So that's
Isn't
why.
that people just don't want to get involved, or what do you think the hesitancy tends to
Yeah.
be?
And we're used to things now. If you think about what we see on TV and what we see in movies and everything, we've all just become numb to stuff. You walk out on the street in a major city and stuff all the time. Bums on the corner, you see all kinds of things happen, and it doesn't affect you the same. You keep driving on. You keep moving forward. That's one thing that's happened a lot. But again, people don't want to be right and they don't want to be wrong. And you're right, they don't want to get involved. But that's why it's so important. We can keep reacting to any situation in life. But if we can head it off before things get that bad, then why not do that?
Yeah. Now, a lot of your posts that I've seen online, I like that because your posts online and you do both male and female posts,
I
correct?
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
depending on which platform and stuff. But most of my stuff really goes towards men because women seem to find more audiences, or there's more audiences, there are more targets for them. So they'll be able to find more homes, more pools to swim in, so to speak.
Mm.
And they have the same crap spewed to them over and over. And then you have someone like me that comes in and I literally echo the stuff that's happening in their heads, or what they say to me all the time is, it's you are in my house.
Yeah.
Yes. And that is because I hear you and I see you. The only thing is, I'm not going to place blame on her and I'm not going to place blame on him. What we'll do is we'll tackle what's really going on. And what I do is not fluff. I am not a happy, clappy woman. I'm just not. I'm about strategy and moving the needle forward, and we're going to go fast. Today's society, everybody wants that easy button and everybody wants that immediate gratification. My job is to coach people quickly. I am your football coach and you do not get to stop with me. That's the way that we work. I work with men and women. And then most of the time, we end up working together as couples. We start off with one, typically the man, because the man's going to have to rise up to be the leader of his household again. And
And from what I understand, a lot of women want that. They want that male leadership so that they can settle into their femininity.
And the issue is most men don't know how to do this anymore because this comes with anger and frustration and punching holes in the wall, not literally, metaphorically, but it's roar. And you can't do that when you're speaking with a woman. You can't go roar. So I show them how to do this without crushing her spirit at the same time so that she is magnetically attracted back to him and they can rise together.
Yeah, because a lot of the issues you bring up, like your style is very quick and very to the point. It's like you're coming to bed, she's turned away from you, she's flipping on her phone. You look for a hug, you get nothing in return. The frustration of the man is often not discussed. And I guess that maybe that was my point, is that a woman may be tearful. It's like, why don't you talk to me anymore? How come she wants to talk about it? Whereas men maybe just put up with it, put up with it, put up with it. And then it builds into anger. Is that something that you see more often, or am I miscategorizing?
Men try to talk about it. They just
Mhm.
don't know how. No one has ever really sat down, more so with this younger generation, but with our masculine alpha males out there, especially Gen X and some boomers. You have these men who are they were told, man up, boys don't cry, and just get out there, rub some dirt on it and keep rolling. This is the way that men have been taught. So when they try to communicate with their woman, it's, listen, I just need sex. This is a requirement, or this is your wifely duty. This doesn't land well with women. So I have to teach them, A, to stop doing certain things, B, start doing these things, and then watch the magic happen, because it does.
It's more of a finesse. You're not
It
gonna
is. We are talking about breaking bad habits and creating new habits. And so that's all I do. I take them and I have a 3-part system. So I offer it the standard system where they can take the general strategies and apply it themselves in a self-paced way. Or if they want to work one-on-one with me, then we customize it all the way. And that's when I end up getting to work with the couple themselves. And we have a much greater success in a much smaller amount of time.
It sounds like you would be in demand for men, which is what I think I wanted to bring out to my I don't think I necessarily have a predominance of men or women. A lot of women tune in for this. But in general, my patients, my clients are
Yeah.
someone who would benefit from this. That, hey, listen, you're right. It is frustrating. The battle of the sexes. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. This battle's been going on for millennia.
Yeah.
But this is 2025, and we need to address it in a different way. It's not your father's family anymore. The wife is often working as well. There's that understanding of each other. The man is working hard, the woman is working hard, whether she's at work or not. There's still stresses at home, correct?
Correct.
You've been doing nothing all day. No, you don't understand. There's been plenty to do all day. But the idea of it makes a lot of sense. Instead of coming home with confrontation and anger, let's soften the blows a little bit. Let's sit down, let's talk about it, and have someone like you who does sympathize and empathize with both sides of the aisle, so to speak. It sounds like a fantastic thing.
It really does work out because I am the middleman and I will tell a man where to go stick it, but I'll also tell a woman off exactly and tell her what she is and where she can go and that she can come back on this call when she can straighten up and fly. So it wouldn't be the first time that I've called a woman the C word to her face on a call.
You
And
go, girl. Woo.
off.
Where do you live?
We're in Texas.
Tex-
And I don't do in-person clients anymore. I do all virtual except for events. So events are the only time I do in person. But for the most part, and when I do have women like this, typically what we will see is that you've got a woman who has, and she's usually in her 30s to maybe mid 40s, and she has hit that realization. We have put ourselves on the back burner for this whole time, raised children and all these things. Social media is her outlet. And what's happened with these women is they have found the boss babe era. And you don't need that, and you don't need a man and that kind of stuff. So it changes the dynamic in the household. And men are not crazy when they say that they've seen this shift in their household. It is very true. It does happen. It happens a lot, specifically in that age bracket, because they are finding themselves for the first time. Unfortunately, there's too much of this online that's got them going in a different direction where it's not healthy for everybody involved. It's actually just a cluster, and it's just going to keep rolling and rolling until something bad happens. So we do see that. So I see extremes on both sides. My job is literally just to hold your hand, walk over to the edge of the cliff, and then you will dangle your feet and I will walk you down that path. I don't do the work for you because I am not your savior. We've already got a savior. That's Jesus Christ. That is not me. I am God, and that is it. You do your own work.
Now, do you find more women come to you or more men come to you?
No,
I know you like I said, you seem to direct it towards men in your post.
Yeah.
Now, is it, or maybe the question is, if a woman goes and says, we need therapy, most men are going to say, okay. If the man comes and says, let's do therapy, and goes to the wife, like, why do I got to listen to another woman? Do you get any of that? Do women?
So I don't call what I do is not therapy. This
Okay.
is strategy. And
Coaching
so,
strategy.
I literally I make that clarification up front that this is not a therapy call. We are not going to do a lot of fluff, all of that. We'll work through your stuff. But I am not going to sit there and ask you every single time, how are we feeling, and rehash. So there is a place for traditional therapy. There is a time and a place for it. What I have found is when it comes to this part of a relationship, therapy, traditional therapy, is not the fixing thing, because what happens when you go in to see a traditional therapist? You go in and they say, the last time you were here, this is what was upsetting you. So what are we doing? We're picking at a scab over and over and keep circling the drain. You just keep circling it, and we never can get away from the drain. So my process is, you can sit there and circle that drain at the very beginning, but then we're going to be getting way far away from it. We are not going back towards that drain. We're climbing out of the sink.
I like that because I had the same experience we had some limited marital counseling, and that's what it seemed like. It seemed, let's go and talk about the same thing that we've been talking about for 20 years. And then you leave, let's hold hands, let's say a prayer, and Jesus, please help Jack. And it's difficult for me as a man, I think I like that constructive thing. Let's build stairs, let's build bridges, let's build walls, let's do something that is productive, not rehash.
I give you playbooks. So I create your playbook. You have a weekly playbook with me, and it changes every week. And that way, we've got a strategy session. We know what we're doing. This is handled as if you're running a corporate business, but it's your life. Your life is the same. You just got to step up and take command.
So you think more men do come to you saying, we need coaching, we need help?
Yeah.
And then when you approach the woman, she accepts it. It's not, there's no
So it really
no
kind of
defensive,ness, or I would imagine some of that you
so
would get.
this is why you don't have the defensiveness for the most part. So typically speaking, if the relationship is not already gone completely south, where we're filing for divorce, but we're not connected, we love each other, but I can't stand you. If we're at that point, then what usually happens, and this is pretty typical, the man is down here. If you think about it, you probably led your life right here. You were in a relationship and things started going south. And whatever was happening, and this, you were pulled back here. So now y'all are down here. And this is not where either one of y'all are supposed to be. You need to be able to rise back up. So you elevate, and I elevate the man. What happens with masculine and divine and feminine energy? There is a natural magnetic pull that takes place. It happens no matter what the relationship is, no matter what kind of relationship is. But the masculine energy will, once it's in place correctly, there is a magnetic pull to that. So we need him to be able to step up first so that we can bring her up as well. And if you try to build, this is something men don't understand. Why can't she do it? Why do I have to be the one? Okay, you want to give her your balls and put her in the purse because that's what you're doing. You're telling her, here, take control. You do it. You be the man of the house. So now she's up here. If you're down here, there's not that natural pull. So we've got this happening the whole time. It's never going to work. She has to do double time, and she is really going to resent you. Step up, be the man, start doing your shit. And then if this is still a good relationship, this will happen. It will.
Yeah, it all makes sense. And that's why I wanted you on, was to talk about these things, because I think we started talking when I first saw you. It's like a lot of these things that are discussed online, I wish were available when I was younger, when I was newly married. These things weren't talked about. There
Right.
was internet, Facebook, it just wasn't as transparent and open as it is now. And the idea of being proactive. And I think we all get stuck in our father's or mother's relationship as opposed to our own, because that's all. And like I said, when you say about domestic violence being something that is tends to go in cyclical with generations, it's because you don't know another way. You walk into the house and say, I need to give me a beer, make that turkey pot pie. That like old school mindset that doesn't exist anymore.
It's not that you don't know another way. I go back to, we do what we know. It's what you're used to. It's what you've been around. It's what your comfort level is. I don't know if you've ever heard, I'm sure you're probably familiar with Tony Robbins, but
Yeah.
probably one of my favorite stories that he's ever told was about how it's like having a thermostat. So whenever I share this story in my household, I keep my thermostat set at 72. And in the South, and all the Southerners out there are going to be like, woman, you are crazy to be at 72. But that is just where I am comfortable, is to be at 72 degrees.
I'm in North Carolina now, so that's South-ish.
Yes. So, like, for my children growing up, they would literally come and they would have, like, the bag of peas on them and everything going, Mom, come on. Can we just turn it down just a little bit? What would happen if I actually changed the thermostat? Now, if I was to drop it down to, say, 68 degrees, what would happen? Besides my children being happy because they feel cool, but for me, I would eventually acclimate to 68 degrees. Over time, I would acclimate, and then that would be my new comfort zone. And the same thing occurs if you were to flip that from 72 to, say, 78 degrees. My children would be very upset with me. However, I would acclimate, as would they, to 78 degrees, and that would be our new comfort zone. What people do is they always go back to what they're comfortable with. It's what they know. And I say comfort, not as in it's a happy place to be. It's just what you are used to.
Right.
It's what you're nervous.
What feels good. It's what feels right.
It's what feels normal.
Yeah.
It's what feels normal.
Yeah.
So good or bad is neither one. It's normal. So what I do with the people that I work with is what we work to change what that comfort zone is. Because where they're at right now, that comfort zone is not working for them. And it's not good or bad. It's just their normal, and it's not right. We're going to have to change the thermostat so that it's going to work for both parties.
Yeah, when you started talking about Tony Robbins, because I used to I had a friend who did the fire walk and everything, and I really liked him. I've read a lot of his stuff. I liked that he did an exercise where he says, "Okay, I want you to look around the room and point all the things that are red around, and you're looking at everything. Okay, what's red? What's red? What's red?" He goes, "Okay, now I want you to close your eyes and tell me everything you saw that was green."
Correct. It's
And you're
about
like, "Ooh,
perspective.
yeah, I wasn't looking for green things." That analogy goes, tell me all the bad things. Like I said, with when therapy, with the counseling that I experienced was more like, tell me all the bad things that you see. What are all the bad things? What are all the bad things? But not discussing the good things. If you look for good things, you'll find good things. That's true with most things in life. If you look for good things, you'll find them. Now, do you deal with a lot of that? Let's go back. Remember when you go back in time and when you were courting, how do you bring back that spark? Did any of your sessions deal with that?
Well, it's not about going back in time. It's looking at where you are right now. So we don't ever go back. We always look at where we are now and what we really want. And then we take it and we divide it up into bite-sized chunks. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So we've got to make it in manageable steps. But back to what you were saying, it is about perspective. Literally, what I have gone and spoke on stages about, it's what I've written about, everything, it has to do with this concept of perception. And my grandmother was a key role model in my life. Absolutely. I learned so many things from her. Now, she had this innate ability to find the good in every single thing in life. So if I was to draw, she was an artist. So if I was to draw a picture of a butterfly and it didn't come out looking like the image I was trying to recreate, she would say, "That is amazing," because that is proof that it is an authentic, original masterpiece. If we were to pass a wreck on the side of the road, she would say, "Hallelujah," because it could have ended up as a fatality and a totaling the vehicles. So she had this amazing way to do it. And what she's taught me from an early age is that it's all about perspective. When you look up at the clouds, sometimes you just have to take a step back to see the silver lining on them. So
Mm.
that is the process that we use. I refer to it as rewriting your own story. We use different frameworks to do this, but the whole point is for my clients to understand that they are the authors of their own stories and they get to rewrite the next chapter.
I really like that. That's proactive. It's not following a script. Like I said, I think probably traditionally, maybe my generation, I'm a little older maybe, but there seemed to be this script for what the perfect family is, what the perfect relationship is. And I imagine a lot of the couples you're dealing with may or may not have had complete husband, wife, mother, father relationships. And maybe
Right.
coming from single father, single mother family. And it's now you've got something new. This is yours. And
Yeah.
how do you want to handle your problem or your situation? And I really like that.
Yeah.
And it's that, and you bring across so many posts. You had just post after post, and every single one of them is just gold and so relatable. How do people get a hold of you? You work in all 50 states? You'll take,
Yeah, we actually can do worldwide as long as folks can understand English and be able to speak English. That's my only thing. So they can find me on I'm sorry, not Facebook, on TikTok or Instagram as Cheyenne MDee. And that's the easiest way to find me. And they can go in and check out our content there and seeing what they want and what they don't.
yeah,
Yeah.
what is yeah, give us a closing remark. I think you've been great. I said, I really enjoy it. I hope a lot of my patients and viewers will tune into you and utilize your services because it sounded very unique to me. And I said, it wasn't a blame. It wasn't a toxic male. It was more understanding of the male perspective, but also realizing that we come at relationships differently and you need to, it's not my way or the highway anymore.
Yeah.
You need to work together and let's do that proactively before it gets into a situation of domestic abuse. And I would imagine that's the last thing. If you're getting to the point where you're already having domestic abuse and physical and emotional injuries, it's probably difficult to get out of. So preemptive strikes would probably be the best way to handle this, correct?
It is. And we try to keep where fathers still get to have time with children and things like that because one stupid move is all it takes and your whole world is over. So we try to get it to go, even if the relationship is not salvageable, it at least sets you up so that you are standing in your highest value so that you can attract the higher value that you were always wanting in the first place.
Yeah.
So that's really what we're going for. And I guess if I had to tell your clients and your audience anything at all, is just to keep in mind that it's all the stories that we tell ourselves in our minds. You can look at a situation and you can choose to tell yourself a specific thought about it. But if you make that story in your head one that is negative or problem based, you're going to be stuck in that sewer hole for eternity. However, if you choose to take control and be the author of your own story, then those thoughts, those stories that you tell yourself are going to be solution based and positive, and it will continue to move that needle forward and you will continue to excel and grow in your life.
Now you say you have a book as well. You've written books. Have they been published?
I have, and they can again find the latest playbook is available on the TikTok or Instagram, and you're able to find it there. And we have a new book that is going to be coming out at the beginning of 2026, and it's going to be more of a memoirs type thing.
That's great. Yeah, I
Mhm.
do. Like I said, I lived in North Carolina for about 8 years. I was in practice there. I've kept my house here. I'm back up north because that's where the kids are. But I'd like to come down. But I do think that there's probably a lot of geographic differences in relationships and stresses. But it all comes down to the basics when it comes down to it. And rewriting your own story is a fantastic way to look about it. So thank you so much, Cheyenne. If there's anything we can do for you or just let me know. I really appreciate you coming here and let's stay in touch and hopefully everything will work out great for you and all your clients. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you. This is the episode of the Ultimate Men's Movement. I'm Jack Rocco, your host. Thank you for listening.